May also marks Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and we're highlighting an author leading the way in the fight to break down stereotypes about Asian Americans.
And our correspondent Angela's son sat down with Phil Yu, author and writer of the blog Angry Asian Man, who's been talking about this issue for more than 20 years.
Angry Asian Man is your blog that has been going on since 2001, which is pre-Twitter, pre-Facebook. I mean, that's like a lifetime on the internet. What inspired you to start it?
I started because I wanted a place to talk about the things that I was thinking about in terms of being Asian American, my identity, my community. You know, the internet was kind of, at the time, this new and open place, and there was no such thing as social media quite yet. And so I kind of just created a place to put all those thoughts down, you know.
And the title of your blog is an ironic play on the model minority myth of angry Asians, you know, how the myth of us being quiet, keeping your head down, you know, doing your work, continue to persist today. How do you think we can continue to change that perpetual foreigner idea?
The idea that angry Asian is kind of in front of people's perceptions of what Asians are. I mean, sort of general misperceptions, I think. The idea that Asians can speak up, we can stand up, we can speak out, especially in the face of injustice. I think what's expected of us is that we're not going to do that we're just going to keep our heads down and just do our jobs and just go about our business. But, you know, we're in a moment where it is imperative that we speak up. It is imperative that we stand up against injustice and speak up for our community.
Speaking about injustice, obviously we can't ignore the fact that the rising hate crimes against Asians is not only personally disturbing, but it also seems like it's just getting worse, right? Most recently, the mass shooting at a Taiwanese church service right here in Southern California. What do you think it will take for this to stop happening? Why do you think it keeps happening?
I think if you take a larger zoom out historical view, people will note that this actually is not a new thing. I mean, I think our awareness of it has increased, but actually growing up Asian in America, you know what it's like to feel like being made to feel like you don't belong, like you're a guest in the country that you were born in. In each of these terrible incidents, there's a moment of recognition for every Asian American where you're like, that could have been me. It's so disturbing and disheartening, but you know that's a reality, and it's been a reality for a long time. I think it's important right now for people to seize this moment, you know, this moment of scrutiny and attention, and use it so that we can galvanize our community and get others involved, get allies involved to make sure this awareness doesn't go away.
And speaking of allies, a recent study that was launched mentioned that 37% of white Americans said that they aren't aware of the increase in hate crimes and racism against Asian Americans just in the past year. And 24% say that racism isn't a problem. Do you feel the mainstream is finally doing something to combat this, or is this another case of performative allyship?
It does seem like even in just the last couple of years, people have suddenly kind of woken up and realized that our community exists. We're seeing this moment of hyper visibility after being invisible for so long. You know, you and I both know, I mean, these are our lived lives. We're not invisible to ourselves, but outside, I think it's a weird thing where people are suddenly starting to care, which is a weird thing to say, you know, but I think this is a moment where, again, we can't let it go by. We have to make sure that our issues and the concerns of our community and our joy and our celebrations are also known.
And you have definitely not let it go by, because you have a new book called Rise, which discusses the pop history of Asian America through the 90s till now. You co-authored this book. How did this idea come about, and what was the motivation to write it?
It was definitely started with conversations between my co-authors, Jeff Yang and Philip Wang. And, you know, when Crazy Rich Asians came out in 2018, it was a milestone moment, a celebratory moment, and a lot of people went to go see that movie. And a lot of the headlines and a lot of the articles written about that movie said, this is the first Asian American movie in 20 some odd years featuring an all Asian cast. And isn't that great? You know, since the Joy Luck Club in the 90s, right? And that, I mean, that's true, technically true in a lot of ways, but it also made it sound like that the Joy Luck Club came out, nothing happened, and then Crazy Rich Asians came out, which we knew as people who have been a part of the community and as commentators and as you know, culture makers, that is simply not true. And so we wanted something that celebrated and documented all of the strides that had been made along the way in the last 30 years to bring Asian America to where it is today.
Congratulations on your recent Peabody Trailblazer Award, too. It must be so rewarding to reap the fruits of your labor. And looking back at your career, did you ever think that you'd be doing what you're doing currently?
It feels the Peabody part feels unreal. Like, I still think that someone's gonna walk through the door like, "Psych, it's a prank," and then and I'm like, okay, yeah. I cannot believe 20 years later after starting the blog that my life and career has led me to this moment where I'm privileged to talk about my community, to put my community in the spotlight, and just be able to have a voice, express myself this way.
Thank you so much, Phil, for your time. I know it's a busy month for you, and I really appreciate it.